apologies if the lighting is a little bit off in this video. The sun is like right there and it's like in my face, so I have to like get the blinds down. But the important thing here that we have to discuss is Jason Isbell. Jason Isbell truly is, to me, one of the greatest country artists of our time. And to be honest, if I think of like country at large over the years, even if I do have a few blind spots in some decades, I would definitely put his album Southeastern or Southern Eastern, one of the best country albums I've truly ever heard. He really embodies some of the greatest aspects of country music that I just look for the genre. I mean, it's gotten a bad rap over the past 10 years or so because it's turned to shit in the mainstream. There really is very little in the mainstream that I'd even look at and go, yeah, that's really good, because it's slim pickings, as they say. But in the, you know, lesser known parts of country music, you've got acts like Jason Isbell, Laura McKenna, Courtney Marie Andrews, truly some of the best of our time in the genre, and sadly they aren't exactly the biggest names in the genre or even in, you know, music in general, but they are pretty fantastic at what they do. Jason Isbell has this little side project thing with the 400 units. To be fair, it seems to be quite a consistent thing for him now. He hasn't dropped a solo album in quite a few years, but we're still getting consistent ones under this name. He also was part of the band Drive by Truckers 2, which I haven't really dug much into, to be honest, but this album here, I think, just proves how strong of a musician he really is, a very talented writer as well. I will admit that the opening track doesn't really lure me into the album as much as I want an opening track to. I just think it gets a bit repetitive towards the end. What have I done to help? What have I done to help? Like, he just keeps repeating that same thing, and I'm just like, I don't know, tell me. Give me something else. Tell me what it is. What have you done to help? But then you get the classic, lovely and delicate two back-to-back tracks coming right after that just remind you of how good he is when you've just got him with a really stripped back acoustic guitar and you're just listening to his wise words speak. I don't know if lyrically this album is as strong as previous ones from Jason, especially not, you know, his best album to me, Southeastern, that I've already mentioned. But I do think there are some really strong lyrical moments that do come through, like on Only Children, as I've just mentioned there, as that's the third track in the album. I've always liked the way Jason just kind of like goes back in time and looks back on his life and just kind of ponders on things and seeing the way things have progressed. He paints a really good picture in that kind of way, and I feel like that's one of the strongest aspects of country music when it's done really well. I think lyrically the best track here, the highlight lyrically, honestly, is the track Overseas, where he's talking about losing like a lover, a person that he was with, to, you know, moving away. I don't know if they're necessarily broken up or if she has just, you know, moved away for a little while. It seems as though they certainly have broken up, though, the way he's talking about how, like, you know, the past he's looking back on and how they were together and how, you know, he'd watch her sleep. Very, you know, sentimental and maybe a little bit soppy at times, but it's nicely done. I like the way he writes his little tunes about love, because they come across as very genuine and heartfelt. The way he's talking about how he, you know, sees her in his daughter's eyes, and then that line towards the end as well, how he says that he's wishing that she's being treated, you know, amazingly as a star across the border overseas, or is she just being seen as a refugee, which I think is actually a really potent lyric. Like, that can really cross a lot of people in the world. Like, just think of how many people move across to different countries and suddenly they're isolated, suddenly that they're just not feeling the same as they used to be. Maybe you're feeling homesick, or maybe you just don't fit in. And I just love that line, the way he says that, like, god damn, you know, you could be a star in one country and then you move somewhere else and you're just a nobody, you're just a refugee. What a great lyric that is, holy shit. It's little lyrics like this that really just make me go, yes, this man, what a writer. Even if not every line on the album stands out in that way, but, you know, it only takes really a couple of lines to make you realize how strong someone is as a writer. And you know, even if he's not writing at his best on every track, which I don't think he is, to be honest, a lot of the tracks do feel quite general, but you know, you do get reminded of those amazing moments here and there. But fantastic vocal performances on tracks like Be Afraid just really carry the tracks as well. And the country rock twang of this one, I think, really takes you to a new place, because it's a nice little change of pace for him on the album, where, you know, you're getting these softer tracks, but then these harder hitting tracks I think are really nicely done. It Gets Easier is another moment on the album as well, I think is pretty strong lyrically. I like the way he's just talking about his life and how everything's turning to shit, and then that line on the chorus as well, which is really simple, straightforward, and just very easy, but it's pretty impactful because of the way he says it. And it makes you think too, the idea of, you know, it gets easier but it never gets easy. I feel like that's something you don't exactly get told. Like, you know, when you're going through something traumatic, or you've lost someone, or just anything in general in life, you know, no one ever says to you it gets easy, because it doesn't ever get easy, but it gets easier. And I guess coming to terms with that's probably harder than you'd imagine. Being at that point of just like, well, this is how it is, perhaps as defeatist as it is, sometimes it's a reality, and I think he does depict that really well in his songs. I think generally every track here, aside from maybe the first track, like I mentioned, just has a really strong melody, a strong sense of genuinity coming out of Jason's voice, some really fantastic performances, musically from the band too. It's very much just what you'd want from an album like this. I think just in terms of like country music or country rock music, you can't really go wrong here, even if it isn't exactly bringing a great deal of like new ideas to the table. You're certainly not getting something that's totally out of the ordinary here from Jason. You know, it might not be his best album to date, but I do think it comes very close to being great. There is something that just feels slightly not there with it. I think maybe one or two tracks just don't hit as hard, but the really strong tracks are so damn strong. I guess it's going to be a rare 7.5 out of 10 from me. I say rare because I don't often actually give these out, but they're just usually for the albums that are just so close to feeling like a truly great album, but they're just not quite there. But even still, it's Jason Isbell. There are already great albums under his belt in the past. This is just adding to an already strong discography. But I think if you're a fan of him, you can't really go wrong with this album. And if you're just looking for some like new country music, please check this out as well. Hopefully you enjoyed my review. Do have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already. And goodbye. Subscribe. Goodbye. Have a good day.